Hi, welcome. On this video, it's part of my series called Flipping the Script. I want to take a couple minutes to discuss why it is that those who identify as balanced dog trainers sound just like force-free trainers, based again on their jumping in point when it comes to engaging a relationship problem between dogs and owners. And again, when I talk about a relationship problem, understand this is the dot, okay, that's not being connected at the very beginning by those who have come into agreement with this idea that training is a learning based exercise. And again, I talk about the source of the problem at the very beginning by way of superficially motivating dogs to respond in the middle of a relationship problem while assuming that those responses can be trusted by way of perception of dogs changing the right way. But again, the missing core ingredients, okay, by way of even discerning whether or not those responses can be trusted, the same missing ingredients by way of a process relate to both intentional control and influence. And again, I talk about, again, lining this up by way of the parenting example. Okay, by way, again, in terms of the social aspect of the relationship, and again, in terms of, dealing with a relationship problem between a parent and a selfish child, understanding that once a child has become selfish, okay, it changes everything, especially if you're jumping in, okay, at that point in the relationship where the child has become selfish and simply, in a very superficial way, generating some good responses and using those responses as a, as a foundation to define change. And you start to understand, why it is so common for dog owners to invest their time, their money, their energy into this idea of things only to discover they're dealing with a counterfeit picture of change within the framework of response. They get their certificates. The dogs look fantastic, okay, in the training environment as they're moving around for things that they want, treats. They're doing a great sit, a great down, a great come, a great stay. And then only discover once you go back into the real world, back to your home environment, you're still dealing with a unresolved relationship issue. You're still dealing with behavioral issues. Because the point being is that, well, the relationship hasn't really changed, okay, based again on, what a process represents. Again, talk about the parenting example. Once a child has become selfish, it follows a path of a intervention. And then connecting dots by way, again, at the social level in terms of the parent's role, the parenting style that is in play, okay, and even in terms of defining even what influence, okay, the role of influence, what it represents by way of reconciling in and through a process, in and through the relationship itself. Again, this is why I talk about being dialed in. One of the big themes here is being dialed into the relationship, depth of relationship, but being dialed into a dog's state of mind. Okay, so, I talk about, even the word behavior, okay, how it's being, used within the parameters of this superficial framework of response. Doesn't even line up, okay? Because understand, we talk about, when trainers talk about behavior, they're talking about superficial response, very much about trying to, take those responses and pass them off as if they can be trusted. And so I talk about, behavior, I talk about, an expressed state, and so the role of influence, intercepting, okay, that expressed state as controls manifesting. Understand, that's the difference. When I talk about being dialed in, and you see, again, when you watch these balanced dog trainers, they're not dialed in that way at all. In terms of control manifesting, the dog's level of stinking thinking, okay, it's all about superficial response. So again, this is inherent to the reason why so many dog owners, again, experience a bad result. All right, so here in this video, okay, I want to kind of illustrate my point here by way of a video put out by a very popular balanced dog trainer, Stonnie Dennis. But pay attention, okay, to the verbiage the way in which he describes the process. And then, consider how those who identify as force-free, okay, present the same process, the same language, the same jumping in point, okay, without even considering why that'd be a problem at the very beginning. So again, when I talk about motivation, motivating a response, I talk about why that's a bad idea, okay, with putting forward responses the way that they're doing it to try to paint a picture, to try to elevate those responses up as though that responses are changing, but based on nothing. Because understand those two core ingredients, influence and control, are missing. And so again, this is why when I draw into the parenting example in terms of what's revealed or not revealed through certain interactions, say by way of parental influence, being part of the equation, being part of the interaction by way of a parent putting a demand on a child, that's when the truth is revealed. By way of a reasonable expectation, a reasonable demand. Example I use is pick up your toys because you're the parent, versus pick up your toys and here's what the whole entire dog training world is based on, and here's $100. But what changes everything is the point of the current state of the relationship. Understand that you have to connect that dot. That once, again, just like once a child's become selfish, those responses cannot be trusted as some sort of a representing change. And that's what's happening because it's about connecting the dots by way of relationship. So again, this is the jumping in point. So I'm going to play some of this video, stop along the way. I'm just going to play just part of this for educational purposes so that people can start to dial into the reality of what's going on in the dog training world.
Okay, guys, now we're going to talk about positive reinforcement. And it's so simple to understand the concept behind positive reinforcement training because we're all pleasure seekers, right? When you go to working with your dog, when you go to working with your puppy, just understand that basic concept. He's out every day, he gets up and he says, how can I maximize my pleasure today?
So right here, okay, I mean, understand, this is like hardwired into the dog training community. I mean, it's hardwired, it's entrenched. And think of it this way. I mean, going back to the parent example, it's like someone coming in to help in terms of you're dealing with a relationship problem with a selfish child, right? And you've invited someone, you're paying someone to come in to advocate, right? To counsel, right? To get involved in the situation, to help you understand, but to advocate. And it's like someone coming into your home environment like Santa Claus, and the only thought process going on in their head is how can I get this child to respond like immediately so I can package those responses up. I can pass those responses off as is to the parent and just walking right past the parent, just saying, okay, just sit down there at your kitchen table. I got this, right? And pulling out the new Xbox games and the selfish child, right? It's like, well, how can I get, and so, okay, pick up your toys, do get the good responses going. And then that's it. And saying, okay, here's the Santa Claus bag. Just keep doing the same thing. Think about all those trainers out there and with the treat bags on their sides, right? Really like just absorbed into this idea of things. And no conversation with the parent. Not connecting dots, not considering the parenting style in play, nothing to do with the relationship itself, okay, in terms of how that connects socially, okay, the role of the parent, none of that. And this is exactly the same thing that the entire dog training world has built itself off of. Understand, this goes right back to talk about Pavlov and Skinner, behavioralism. Dogs were not studied, okay, at the social level the way I described, by way of how they connect with us that way. And so how this is all layered up. And so you talk about, this whole issue about, blame shifting on the dogs, why it's become part of the deal. But here you talk about right away, you talk about, pleasure seeking, motivate. I talk about why it's a bad idea you don't want to do it that way. The motivator is the relationship. Okay, understand that based on that connection. Dogs as pack animals. Their desire to connect with other dogs and the human at the social level, that's the motivator. Okay? The whole premise of even a process is not defined that way. Okay, the dog's, agreeableness to connect that way. Then what you need to attach to that Okay, and I talk about, a intentional interaction-based method that speaks the right language. This gets into this issue of intent. Okay, the role of influence by way you see how I'm attached with the leash and just how influence is being transferred through the leash, how I'm moving. The dog understands what I want. Okay, the dog understands intent. So influence and control, intentional control through the leash, okay, through these interactions, influence, how that transfers through the interactions themselves, intent, right? These are some of the themes I talk about, but now it brings it into a power play at a power play level. Okay, and power play means that that's going to draw out, okay, this whole relationship issue. But the agreeableness part is the dog coming into agreement with these interactions, okay, that reconcile your role properly, the role of influence. That's what changes perception of dogs the right way. So it's interaction based. It's not about motivating. So you need to steer clear. It's just like the demand part. A parent, pick up your toys, right? Expectation, demand, because you're the parent. But for a selfish child, they're going to kick up. So when I talk about, pushback or challenge, right? This is why trainers have such a difficult time being able to work beyond and through or even reconcile certain reactivity of dogs, certain reactions of dogs, because their whole basis for, motivating dogs the way I describe, does not allow for the ability to be able to do that. Okay, so they're gaining agreeableness through motivating dogs through, say, a treat. So it creates agreeableness, right? But it's those themes that become attached to that: bribery, accommodation, negotiation. So just consider the same, just transfer those over to the parent example, especially considering once a relationship problem is underway, absolutely you can gain agreeableness in certain moments. So those moments really play into why it is you go on to certain trainers' social media. You see videos that look like infomercials, right? You're getting a snapshot. You're getting these moments packaged up, but you're not seeing transparency that way because those two core ingredients I talk about, influence and control, they're missing, okay, from the process itself. It's agreeableness based on those themes. And then add to that ongoing relationship problems, why the relationship never gets cleaned up. Okay, understand the ability to be able to reconcile certain reactions, to be able to move through a relationship problem comes through the right foundation. Understand that it's just like your parenting style. If it isn't right, the integrity of that isn't right, then what comes from that is going to be superficial. It's going to be it's going to offer up a false image of nature. Okay, I talk about comfort, right? Gain through agreeableness, through control. Right? So as the dog's gaining, that's why dogs can gain an incredible amount of control in the relationship with their owner and totally oblivious because the dogs are look happy. Okay, the dogs are moving around because they're content in that. They're fulfilled. That's why through attachment, possessiveness, right? You see that a lot. Dogs attach. They become possessive of certain humans. They're falling into the shower. They're attached the wrong way. You think that's love. And then a trainer comes along and guess what? Oh, you want to fix this? Well, let's just bring this learning-based ideology and you get to pet all over your dog 5 minutes in. It plays into your emotions that way. You're not going to fix the relationship. Like, you understand? It's just superficial. And then you just end up basically, saying, well, I'm just going to, manage the problem. It can't be fixed. See, all those things all play into this ideology.
Right? And so all your job is to do is to structure his life in such a way that the behaviors that you like come and be still and have.
So right there, there's the, it's revealed right there. What did you say? The behaviors you want, the come, the state, those are responses. Okay. They're responses. See, this is all twisted up in the dog training world. So it's this jumping in point. The behaviors, those aren't behaviors. Those are responses. How do you define, behavior? I talk about the state of mind of a dog, those core ingredients, right? Intent, agreeableness, right? Just like a parent, interacting with a selfish child, how you're going to frame up response that way. That's the problem here. It's like the behavior. So understand that balanced dog trainers use that word that's misapplied within the parameters of the superficial framework of response, and force-free. See, it's the same thing.
Good manners have consequences that the dog considers positive, right? That's it. It's that simple.
So it's that simple. So I like the saying goes, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And look at all the inherent problems in the dog training world. I mean, do you ever wonder why it is that, those identified as force-free and balanced, they pretend to be offering something different. They label themselves as like experts. Like, how can that even be possible? Well, that's the point. I mean, all the problems happening in the dog training world are all symptomatic of this, inherently flawed ideas to what training is. It's based on what I call the big lie. What's the big lie in the dog training world? That a process, okay, is a learning-based exercise once a relationship problem is underway. Same as, ask the question, is it a learning-based exercise once a child's become selfish? If you're to do what these trainers are doing, you should expect the same result. And you do get the same result. See, that's the incredible thing. Is like you can line this stuff all up. Why would you think that it'd be any different? Like that'd be my question to anybody. Why would you think that, why wouldn't you end up with a counterfeit picture by way of response if you do the same thing as a parent? It's incredible to me what's happened in the dog training world.
If your puppy grows up thinking that coming, being still, and having good manners leads to good things, well then, of course, that puppy is going to engage in coming and being still and having good manners as much as it can.
See, this whole thing, it's so in the context of focus. I talk about that. Context is everything. So what type of focus? Is it through right relationship, through those core ingredients coming in the right way, and then the focus, the perception of the dog actually changing the right way? It's the same thing as a child going within the permissive parenting style, going to a parent because they get their ice cream, get what they want, and bypassing the other parent. So it's understand that you have to actually consider the context of perceptions by way of relationship. Okay, understand that this is totally law absent in the dog training world. That's why I even think about it. It's like, is it just about a down? I did a video, Larry Crone video, go watch it. Like, don't force a down, period. Okay, that should question, okay, what's the point of what's going on here? Is it just about, I mean, it's so ridiculous. I mean, you can just take everything I say and just add it to these trainers' videos they're putting out, and you should apply critical thinking. Why is it a dog reacts a certain way on the leash with those core, under intentional control and influence? You'll see challenge rise up, but off leash, this gets into free will here, off leash look fantastic. Okay, I mean, you have to draw into what, the information I put out.
And because the puppy, like us as human beings, we all like to get as much stuff that we find pleasurable as possible.
See, totally superficial. So my encouragement, okay, is understand that it all starts at the beginning. Okay, it's a jumping in point. You have to consider what's the reason you're going to a dog training in the first place. I mean, just to do a sit and a down. I mean, because you're experiencing a relationship problem. And this is how they're jumping in. There's no critical thinking needed. It's totally superficial. They don't connect the dots whatsoever. They don't even consider the core ingredients. They talk about influence and control. There's nothing. And again, if you were to do the same thing in terms of my parenting example, just walk in like Santa Claus with a bag of goodies over just about pleasure, right? And just how do I get the responses going? You should expect problems. It's common sense. So again, my encouragement, there's a reason why balanced dog trainers sound just like force-free trainers, because they approach a relationship problem the same way. They jump in the exact same way. They engage the exact same way. So again, consider when you end up with a bad result, okay, it's no accident. It's not because there's something wrong with your dog. Okay, it's everything wrong with this idea. And again, the problem here is that so many are doing it, balanced and force-free. It seems normal. Like blame shifting on the dogs has become normalized, okay? That's how bad this has become. Thanks for watching.